Hello, Yuri. How are you? How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So this is a kind of new thing, the story plus interview. Now in 2022, people can also know more about the guests, their work, their upcoming work, know the person who was actually telling them the story. So now please introduce yourself to our audience. Please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Hyuri Constâncio. I'm a director and writer living in Ilhabela, small island in Brazil.
Okay.
But I came actually from an unlikely place. I came from almost extreme poverty. You wouldn't believe that I would end up making films.
Oh,
But yeah, no electricity, no cooking gas in the house. We used candles to light the house at night. My mom cooked with alcohol in a tin can, that level of poverty. Even planted vegetables at some part of the year. So it was quite a challenge getting to where I am in terms of becoming a director and writer. But yeah, lots of things happened in between. I didn't go to kindergarten, for example, so I did a lot of sports as a kid. I managed to be a kid. I was featured in a surf magazine when I was 4 years old. I did swimming and jiu-jitsu and capoeira. I could really explore a whole lot more in the world before getting stuck in a classroom with a bunch of screaming kids.
okay. Okay. Oh, wow. So this is kind of a hooking story.
But I also traveled with my mom because something happened in the city we were living in, and the farmer wanted to buy our property, a little house to sell to a bigger company, and we had to flee because they were threatening us because we didn't want to sell. Okay. And so my mom said, hey, let's go on a trip. And we went on a trip around the country, going city by city, because we didn't have money to go directly to the place we wanted to get to. Okay. So we went city by city. My mom would make the money selling her art so we could get the money to go to the next city. I lived in a bunch of different places. And in the end, I basically ended up knowing half of the Brazilian coast when I was a kid.
Okay.
But all of that, led me to getting in touch with lots of stories and jokes and people and characters, and situations, experiencing the world.
So art is actually flowing in your family.
I should clarify, she was not like selling high art. She was making her own little bracelets. Yeah, I do have those elements. My father was into drawing. And I grew up drawing as well. That was a hobby of mine. I have a bunch of drawings in my archives.
That is a really inspiring, like selling the art to actually travel. Now talking about your filmmaking journey. How did you get into filmmaking?
I was always into storytelling. I was the storyteller in the group, telling horror stories around the campfire. I was the joke teller. Yeah, I was always trying to find new jokes and new stories. Hey, man, do you have a new joke for me? Yeah. And I also remember my mom got a little box with a few classic children's books. She would tell them very enthusiastically for me at that time, making voices and faces, And yeah, even though she had a limited command of the language, she's not fully educated, fully schooled, but she was very excited about it. And some of these stories were from the Brothers Grimm of the story I told in the podcast. So it was nice for me actually telling that the grandfather. But what really got me into filmmaking, I think, was we got our first TV at some point. Finally, an old TV, and we could watch movies in public TV. And so I was fixated on movies. My mom was fixated on movies. She was a fan of horror movies as well. I was exposed to that quite a lot. My first favorite movie was Hitchcock's Psycho, for example. But yeah, I got access to those movies. And then later I got access to DVDs, and I watched a lot of BTS, behind the scenes. And I was really into I really wanted to know how movies were made. I was very curious about that. Yeah. And I became very involved. But I because of poverty, I couldn't get even close to a camera until I was 16, like just close to a camera, seeing one in front of me. So I never managed to actually make films, even though I really wanted to learn how to make films. But yeah, I did one school project about the environment. Classmates, we got the video screen. A guy in the audience came to me later and said, hey, we're doing a course on basic camera operating. in editing in Premiere Pro. You want to go and check it out? I really liked your video. I said, sure. And so, yeah, I did the course. I then was offered to edit a documentary for them. I did well in the course. So I did a documentary. I met a guy. The guy was working a short film. I said, hey, I know some visual effects. I was studying at home at that point. And so that's how I started, just doing a short film with a friend of mine and so on.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, you were involved in a lot of projects, and they were actually for big productions. How does those projects happen to you?
The guy was working a short film. We did a few projects together. Yeah, one of them being a YouTube channel, for example, called Ugile Abela, the Ilha Bela Guide, which became the biggest, and still is actually, the biggest YouTube channel about the island that I live in, even though it stopped after posting only 5 videos. And the idea was to really practice filmmaking, get better, refine our craft and so on, until we actually made our short films. I worked on a few more projects. People offered me some very small jobs, sometimes for friends and so on. And all the while I was learning and practicing at home, reading and learning as much as I could. And then I got the chance of working in a Discovery Channel show called the Treasure Quest Snake Island. Yeah.
Okay.
I was by an LA company. I was the media manager in that production. And I was responsible for basically the footage and the audio files getting out of the cameras and the recorders and transferring them safely to the servers in LA. So all in between was my responsibility. But yeah, it was very fast moving actually. No room for mistakes. So that was quite an interesting experience.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't stop in that production. And the money is flowing fast. And I actually developed a program to handle one task that he asked for. It would take days. And I said, I can't do that. I made the program. It took seconds to execute what they asked for.
Yes.
Really impressed. I got promoted within the first few weeks. And I remember even the cast coming to me and say, hey, man, I heard about you. Congratulations. Yeah, but after that, I did some other things. I did some writing in a small production company in São Paulo, worked for Foundations, the biggest YouTube channel as an editor. Yeah.
That was a pretty wonderful work that you did. That's really inspiring, starting from nowhere to actually get into some kind of a production, which comes from LA, and then actually creating a good portfolio for you to solve the problem. And then you actually get recognized for your work, and then you get promoted. That journey is really inspiring. And that journey also defines you as a filmmaker, how passionate and how perseverous you are for that particular work. When I was reading your work, I was really fascinated about, wow, this guy has done really amazing work. And now you told me about this. This is a kind of good start. And when you look back at it now, it inspires a lot of people, so yeah, that was lovely. Now, at this moment, you have made a short film, which you completely shot on the mobile device, on the phone, not using any kind of camera and all that. So how did you do that? And why did you made this film, Tissue?
Well, the idea behind Tissue was I was working some stories behind the scenes, and I said to myself, okay, I'll finish those stories. I'll write the scripts, and then I'll make my debut as a director and writer. But it took so long. So I was years into developing that story, not even started writing a script. So I got tired of it, and I was working on editing, which was not really my thing. So I said, I'll just do it. And by the way, I didn't have a camera. I was still, I didn't come from poverty straight into wealth. No, I was still, slowly going up.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a camera. I bought this phone that had a decent camera, and I realized I can actually make a film now. I have a little decent camera on my phone. And so I said, I'll just do it. Forget about those stories. Forget about the scripts. I'll just grab my phone, think about a little story, that can happen in one scene or one tiny little house. Just do it. And that's what I did. In 1 week, I thought about shots. I walked around the house, the apartment, and looked around and said, okay, maybe I could get a shot at this door. Maybe I can get the protagonist walking here, and I can push in or pull out. And then it started emerging. I asked my sister, hey, want to star in my movie? And she said, sure. Yeah. And we did it, and my mom came along later, and she was very excited about the film, offering to help all the time. And I was like, hey, how about the villain?
Okay. Oh, wow.
The monster. Yeah.
Amazing. So when you were making this film, you completed, you released, everything happened. What did you learn from this film issue?
A lot of things. Making this film is not only about showing my potential as a director, saying, hey, this is me as a director, because people knew me as an editor and a writer, but also learning, making mistakes, failing fast, and learning all the lessons of your first film, and also getting the confidence to make my next proper film, a more elaborate film. But one thing in particular, the biggest thing for me, it was about the stabbing scene. So yeah, spoiler, the protagonist gets stabbed to death. And so the stabbing scene, there was no script, as I told you. I made the shot list, except for the stabbing moment.
Yeah.
I just wrote stabbing happens in my list. So my plan was to figure out in the moment, on the day, on the spot, with the camera and the actor. Yeah. So I did. And I got to the editing. And it was just a big, giant mess. It was just not working. It was just not working. I was like, holy cow, man. I screwed with this. It was not cutting together at all. It was very confusing and feeling random. So I had to take a step back and think about it. Why is it not working? And I looked back on one scene that I knew worked from my very first favorite film as a 3-year-old. It was Hitchcock's Psycho.
Yeah.
And the stabbing scene in that movie made a mark on me. And just like in my film, the knife never touches the victim. That was one of the things.
Yeah.
Never touch on camera. But why is it working? And why isn't mine working? So I thought about it until I realized the stabbing moment is not just stabbing. There is a story to it.
Yeah.
There is a beginning, a middle, and an end to that stabbing. In Psycho, the beginning is she's caught by surprise and is overwhelmed by the attack. The middle is she tries to fight back, trying to grab the attacker and stop him. Yeah. And the end is because she's caught by surprise and in a disadvantageous position and she got stabbed several times and is weak. She loses the battle and is overtaken by the attacker who finishes the job. When I realized that's the story in that stabbing, a light bulb went on in my head, and I knew exactly how to edit my scene. I knew what to look for.
Yeah.
I mean, my movie is not Psycho, so I can't make what Hitchcock did.
Yeah.
It's not the same story, but I knew I had to find a story in my footage, and I did, and that's how I managed to solve the problem. And that's the result you see in the movie. So that was the biggest takeaway for me. Everything has a story. Every moment has a story. Beginning, and middle, and end. And you have to be paying attention to that, to take care of that.
True. The question here comes as you were in the editing part. You were writing things. Now, what made you decide to actually become a director? What was that click and that spark that made you know I want to direct something? What struck?
I never wanted to be a director. I never thought about that. Yeah, initially, but I was watching behind the scenes video. I was just curious about the filmmaking process. And I came across this website called The Magic of Visual Effects and just learning about the visual effects. So I got into doing visual effects. So every step of the moment, I got fascinated by one step of the process. So for years, I was fascinated with editing and learning all the details from the masters, consuming everything I could from big editors. And also from cinematographers for a few years. I shot a documentary as a director of photography. A bunch of things. I was just very interested in the whole process, but I never really wanted to be an editor or a cinematographer, and I never thought about being a director. But I realized at some point two things. First of all, I realized I like the whole process. I'm not just into one single thing. And I also, and I also am very much about the big ideas, the big picture, and the message and the telling story. As I said, I was a storyteller from the beginning. And a second thing that happens was I actually wanted to be an inventor when I was a kid. I wanted to make the world a better place and change the world, invent technologies that make life better for everybody, improve our systems. But I realized that changing the world is very difficult. You need a lot of help. Even if you say, I actually want to do it, I want to dedicate my life to change the world, you actually need a lot of support and a lot of people who understand the vision and who believe it and want to support you. If people don't think there is a plan or they don't think there is a problem in the first place. So I realized I have to be a director because the most important thing for me is getting the message across. The most important thing for me is telling these stories and sharing my perspectives, talking about these issues in a cinematic way. I had to do it. And I also was writing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I realized, hey, I had a bunch of stories, a bunch of ideas, So the writing thing actually comes from a necessity. I wish someone else would write the stories for me in scripts. It's a painful process, right? So that's why I say I'm a director first, because I think that's how I see it. I see the big picture. That's what I care most about, the ideas and perspectives and how to show certain things in certain ways in telling stories. So that was a turning point for me.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear the change and the process and the thing that you want to change the world. And then you realize how you can put your efforts in doing that. That was the thought behind. I loved it.
One last thing. I also noticed the Terminator, the film, The Terminator. It's interesting because when talking about technology and automation, oftentimes you see a reaction like this. You tell, hey, let's use robots to automate most work, the dangerous, boring, repetitious jobs, so we don't have to do them. We can focus on more interesting things. People, most of the time, they say, oh, how about Skynet? The Terminator. So there is this fear of automation. Whenever you mention this, people go, oh no, the robots will take over. What if they take over? So I also wanted to explore the opposite of that, because that movie was so successful in putting that fear in people's mind. We don't have movies that show a positive future. We only see movies that show the most dreadful scenarios, of the future. How about providing some vision of a better future? Because apparently people can only see a bad future. Because they always see negative movies about the future, And here's the thing: I understand that movies need conflict to work. Stories need conflict, otherwise things don't move. But I think we can do that, and I have a bunch of ideas. I hope to make them a reality, more positive future where I show, hey, we could have this world instead,
Awesome to hear that you have something that people will watch and see the betterment of the human future. That was nice to hear. Now, when I talk about you, when you complete the movie, when you create the movie, or when you start something, when you pick up the pen, when you sit on the chair, when you decide to write something, what accomplishment do you get when you actually step up in this field? When you complete or make or do something, what accomplishment do you feel?
I mean, with my first short film, Tissue, it was the accomplishment of just making a film from start to finish and confirming that, yes, this is what I want to do. This is what I should be doing. confirming that, because I had doubts at first. I was like, oh, what if, I'm in the middle of the movie, I don't know how to put the beginning, the middle, and the end together,
Yes. I remember that. I've
maybe I'm
been.
lost. Yeah, so confirming my intuition, because I had the intuitions.
Mhm.
I thought I had, and then I confirmed it, and that was, a good feeling of accomplishment in that way. But more than anything, it's about the stories, Movies for me are about making you feel deeply and think deeply, It's about putting you through an intense journey through things you've never felt and thought about before.
Yes.
It's meaningful, it has to be meaningful,
Yep.
I will be successful and I will feel accomplished if people are clinging onto the edges of their seats, as if their lives depended on the outcome of that movie.
Yes.
And also if they come out of the movie thinking, wow, I never thought about that before. I never thought about this in that way before. That to me is the goal. I like movies that when you come out, you keep thinking about them.
Got it. Wow, that's amazing thought. Thinking in a different way. I love that point of view of yours. So now talking about as you are also student of human behavior. Tell me more about that. How does it help you in the journey of filmmaking? How it helped you in writing and directing? How it overall helped you in this whole journey of yours, being a student of human behavior?
I think quite a lot. I think it gives me an interesting perspective. But I also think that it helps me in one way, and that is that I don't like making characters who are caricatures.
Yeah, that helps in that. Yep.
Yeah.
That helps you in the writing.
Yeah.
That helps you in the writing because it's observing characters.
Yeah, and just exploring the full range. We see a lot of just the same characters, and the same tropes and the same things over and over again in movies.
Yeah.
It feels a little tiring for me. Exploring the full extent of the human behavior is really interesting to me. But it started because I looked around and I proposed changes, and I always received this reaction of, oh no, things are the way that they are. They've always been like this. We don't need to change anything. So it always intrigued me why people held on to those old systems that clearly were not working, sometimes to the detriment of themselves. So when I was in first grade in high school, I used to go to the beach nearby my house and lay on the grass under a tree.
Okay.
Wind blowing on my face and just think about it. Just think, why do people do this? Why do people do this in the classroom? Why did that guy do that? And trying to figure out the connections, like the social hierarchy in the classroom, and trying to figure out what factors were affecting us in society, the incentive systems. So a lot of that came from this. But then I actually began studying. So I took an introductory course in psychology some years prior. Much later, I took a course on human behavioral biology. It's a course from Stanford University. It's available online for everybody.
Okay.
Highly recommended. Professor Robert Sapolsky, really good. So I was really interested in understanding behavior. In my movies, I want to explore those subjects, the things that sometimes we don't want to change. We don't like change.
Yes,
right?
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, so I want to explore certain things that I think are hurting us in the long term and have been with us for a long time. Some of these behavioral issues, let's say.
Yeah. Human behavior is the one thing that I also believe in. The best marketing people are the one who are a good student of human behavior, because they know how can they sell to people without them knowing that what they are selling. That's the biggest plus when it comes to market something or sell something or sell an idea. So yeah, that's why the question actually, you're saying.
Yeah, no, I like marketing people in those big companies.
Yeah,
they understand behavior, absolutely, but they use it for nefarious reasons, to sell you things, to make you want things, because they know how to exploit the psychology in your head.
Yep. When you were shooting this film, Tisha, what kind of tools do you use to actually make this?
Tools, yeah. Well, I used. Okay, so here's the list. I used Windows Notepad for writing my notes.
Okay.
I shot on my phone. It was a Samsung Galaxy J7 Metal. It's a 2016 phone. The Filmic Pro app. I used a Benro KH25 tripod that I had bought some years prior. I used a piece of wood I found in the neighborhood together with a piece of cloth. Yeah, so I could slide my tripod in a smooth surface to do the dolly shots. I used Motive Audio from Shure Plus. It's a very interesting recording piece of software. It allows you to record uncompressed WAV files. So I record all the sounds you hear, the Foley. I recorded with that app on my phone. So the sound was also recorded with my phone. I use Premiere Pro for editing and basic mixing, Reaper for music and sound effects, Vordio to export the sequences to Reaper from the editing software, freesound.org, Soundly for sound effects, Epidemic Sound for music, Film Convert for color, correction and grading. I use a little bit of Blender for recreating one shot digitally.
Okay.
And some free VST plugins that you can find online, mostly with free stuff, that you can find online.
Yeah. Okay. So how long did it take to you actually complete the whole film from start to the end and then releasing it?
I had the idea October of 2018.
Okay.
In 1 week, I thought about the shots, and I had to stop in the third day of shooting because I was had a health issue and I was spitting a lot of blood. So I had to stop for a while. But then I got back and I edited in my free time. I shot a few pickups here and there, got ill again, edited some more in my free time. And in the end, I finished in May of 2020. Yeah. Then I actually got the film through a few film festivals. I worked on the behind the scenes, and I released the film and the behind the scenes in end of last year, 2021.
December, I guess. Yeah. So it was a long journey, like 3 years, But the one decision that to all the one who are listening to this is taking your camera, taking your phone, and just do it. That's the whole thing that made the film. That decision-making factor is really important. Now tell me about the directors who have influenced you to be a director, to be in this business of making films.
I will forget some of them, many. Well,
you can tell the movies. You can tell the movies. There's no problem.
Yeah, movies, even worse. With movies, even worse. But well, my mom was into movies a lot, So we got our first TV, got access to public TV, and we just were exposed to a lot of mainstream stuff. Everything was showing on TV. We watched some good movies, a lot of good movies, but a lot of Hitchcock, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, Tim Burton, Robert Zemeckis, Roland Emmerich, those guys of the 90s, early 2000s, Ridley Scott, Tony Scott. More recently, David F. Sandberg. His story inspired me quite a lot. He started on YouTube. Tim Burton, I remember, a movie that really marked me was Edward Scissorhands. Oh, I love that movie. I need to rewatch that movie. But yeah, all these guys, I grew up watching them. More recently, I've been watching a lot of art films, and I've been exposed to a lot of new directors that I really appreciate. Indian directors, Turkish.
Indian films. Do you remember any Indian film that you watched? Any series that you watched?
Yeah, I forget the name. That old one, with the 3 movies. I forget the name. The Apu series.
The Apu series.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a fan of the Apu series.
I like that. Oh, yeah, I like that.
Oh, wow. Any others? Do you remember any star, any name that you remember from Indian film industry? Yeah, not a problem.
I'm bad with names. Yeah, I'm bad with names.
I just asked you as just a question, like, okay, you saw Indian films and Indian culture. Any advice you'd like to give the upcoming directors, the one who are listening?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think for me, my understanding was that I think you have to have something to say. My experience was I had something to say. that's why I knew I had to. The only way to say it was through the cinematic experience. So is this really? Do you need it? Do you have something to say badly? Something unique to contribute to the world? Something that's important to you and it's screaming within yourself to come out, So yeah, for that, first you need to find what that is and understand yourself, who you want to be in this crazy world. And that takes some time, Our prefrontal cortex, talking about behavior, our prefrontal cortex, this area of the brain that really makes us human, reason part, that only matures around age 25 on average.
Okay.
So yeah, at 25, some people even more, later. Yes. So it takes a while. Don't freak out, if you're still unsure, just keep going. You have to also be open to studying, to learning. There are a lot of smart people out there, I think, who overestimate their intelligence, who trust their gut feelings too much, and that prevents them from learning, and they end up sabotaging themselves in their own progress. So I think it's important to keep learning. That's really what got me out of poverty. That's really what got me out of, getting stuck. I got stuck quite a lot in the past. I didn't know what to do in writing. At the beginning, my first script, I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. And it was terrible. But then as I kept learning and being humble about understanding that I was not there yet, I kept learning and learning and learning. And now I feel much more confident when I sit in front of the computer to write, for example, and also to direct. Yeah. But with all of that out of the way, I would just say one thing, and we touched on this before. Just make a damn movie. Yeah. That's my biggest advice. Like what I did, just do it. Don't wait for anyone to come and hand you an opportunity, because that's not going to happen. Don't wait for the perfect this or perfect that, because you want a movie to be perfect. I know that. I've been there. No, just grab whatever camera you have available and do it. Come up with a story, bring your friends together, and make a movie. That's the only way to evolve as a director. Really, really. No film school will give you any of that. It's just making movies. Making movies will give you that. Film school maybe will help you, exposing you to more concepts quicker, accelerating that. But only you making movies will give you this. Yeah. And this industry, the film industry, it's difficult because we have a catch-22 situation. To show what you can do, you need an opportunity to make a movie. But no one will give you an opportunity to make a movie unless you have already made a movie and proven that you can do it. So you just have to go and do it yourself. Yeah. That's why I made tissue. Yeah. It's a highly competitive industry. So just go make a movie. One thing I like that James Cameron said, so I'll borrow from him. He said, the big director, James Cameron.
Yep, I know.
Yeah, you want to be a director. Don't try to be a director. Be a director. The moment you make a movie and you have your name in the credits as the director, you are a director. Anything after that is just negotiating budget in your fee. I really like that, Yeah, just go make a movie. Put your name on that movie, and now you're a director, man.
Yeah, that's really awesome, really inspiring. And the people who are listening to this, they must be that just doing it, and you only will be perfect if you do it on regular basis. You have to do it, and you have to do it on regular basis, and you will be perfect. Because it's not that you've done for one time and then you'll be perfect in the second. You have to step in. You have to learn. The process of learning is really helpful till the end of life. That was inspiring. You're talking about directors, Hollywood directors. Now, what's your goal to get into Hollywood and be the Hollywood director?
Yeah. Well, that would be nice. That would be nice. That's a goal. That's an interesting goal. Yeah, yep. I would like to make those big movies for sure. But ultimately, I want to make, hopefully, and I think every director wants that, but I, got to aim high. I want to make the movies I want to make. These stories that I briefly mentioned, about a positive future and how things could be. Yeah. Exploring human behavior. Have lots of ideas for feature films on that and TV series. But I'm not in an easy position.
Yep.
to go to Hollywood, coming
Yep.
from poverty. In fact, I'm in a terrible position, but I'll keep going. I'll keep going. And if no one sees my potential, no producer, no studio, and give me a helping hand, I'll get there by myself. I'll keep making movies. I'll keep working on my craft. And to me, it's not a question of if, but when. I've determined, I'm absolutely committed to becoming a director. And this is what I want to do as a professional, as an
Yes.
artist. I want to do some music, on the side, but this is my main thing. This is really, let's say, my brainchild will be movies and scripts. Yeah, so I hope to get there. Yeah, make some bigger movies. It comes with some constraints, I understand, of the types of movies you can make at that level. But it also comes with some freedoms because you can do much more. You have much more abilities. Yeah.
Yep. What is next for you now? After Tissue, are you working on something? Is there going something in the writing? Or you're writing a screenplay for any project? What's coming up next?
I am writing right now. I'm writing 2 short films. I have a bunch of ideas brewing in the background all the time for short films, feature films, TV series. But my focus right now is on writing these 2 short films.
Okay.
One will be about 10 minutes long, and is about a man. I'll give you the log line. It's about a man who finds his daily life repeatedly disrupted by a mysterious, horrible smell he can't locate. So it's a little vague. There is much more into the script.
Okay.
But that's basically the idea.
Where is the guy based? Where is he based? Isn't it Brazil?
No particular place. No particular place. It's more of a universal themes, of behavior and certain things.
Okay, awesome.
The second one I'm also working on with a friend of mine who's writing this film. It's inspired on this friend's personal story. It will be around 30 minutes long. This is a more ambitious one, not only in terms of time, but I want to do some really cool scenes with this one. So I will need a bigger budget and people will need to trust me more. So I need to make the other one first. That's a simpler one.
Both sounds awesome. Both of them sounds awesome. I'm hoping that when they're released, I'll be helping. I'll be watching them firstly, and then helping to put out on my social whenever it comes out. Now, before we end this interview, please mention your social media handles: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any other handles that you use and want people to know more about you, explore more about you. Where can they connect?
YouTube.com/Hyuri Constâncio. That's the main point of contact. I also have Instagram if you want to get in touch. Hyuri.Constâncio. Facebook is also Hyuri.Constâncio. Twitter is Hyuri Constâncio, no dot.
Okay. To all the listeners, all information about this links and all also will be mentioned in the description of this particular episode, where you can connect with filmmaker director Hyuri Constâncio. Hyuri, thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best for the work you've done, and I hope to collaborate with you soon, or if we find any kind of opportunities in future. And then the link of Tissue, the film that you made, is also mentioned in the description, so people can just check the description and watch the film. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for being the guest on the show.
Thank you. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah,
nice.